I think,
You would hope.
just as a man on planet Earth, I think, based on my reading of the Bible and historical events, including the empire, the rise and fall of empires, it seems to me human beings and their view of God and the evil one, if that gets out of balance, we had it as a constitutional republic. We had it there was problems, but I'm looking at it now and I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to keep my faith in the one Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talked about. I'm looking at the prophets who predicted all the things he would say, most of them, and what he did.
Right.
And I'm hearing what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John said. I'm going to focus on that as I go forward. Whoever runs the country, whatever we decide to do, we're leaning Marxist now, socialists, we're leaning that way. All those empires, they've risen and they fall. They've risen and they fall. So now I find myself watching an empire that I love, the United States of America. But my faith, Al, is not with man-made constructs.
Yeah.
My faith is in Jesus, the Son of God, and the account of what he did and what he's now doing and what he will do.
Yeah.
I'm going with that, and I'm not going to get a stick with a sign on it, and I'm not going to take off toward the Capitol. I'm not going to do it.
Or attack
No.
police
I would
officers.
just say, what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm going to keep my faith in Jesus because he removed my sin, and I'm guaranteed immortality based on what he did. He's now mediating for me. I'm not going to budge on that. All my energy is going to be there. I hate it for the country.
Yep.
It makes me sad to watch, but you say,
I think
with
it's
you
horrible.
getting a stick running around with a sign on it, does you think that's going to help? It's my view and their view of how they either bow down to the God of heaven and the Son he sent by the power of the Spirit. It gets, in my mind, it's the only way to roll. Therefore, unless there's a mass repentance coming rather quickly, and instead of charging the White House, we need to become the people of God that he's designed us for, and let's get on about our business.
Well, that's me. I used to take consolation in the fact, even if the party that I voted for didn't win, I always used to say, well, at least we don't riot and do violence. It seems like the party that I don't vote for does every time. And then I'm like, here we are. The party that I voted for, they're doing the same thing. And it even started in the speeches and the rhetoric. I mean, they're mad, which is okay. We lost. That's fine. Even if there was injustice done, okay, it happens. But when you start,
it's a sin-cursed world.
yeah, I started noticing there was a lot of swearing, a lot of middle fingers, a lot of let's.
It got very coarse, very coarse.
Yeah, it got, and I'm like, I'm out on this.
Look, what if everybody-
life is how you respond to it.
What if everybody, Republican or Democrat or Independent, what if everybody just said, wait a minute here, why don't we all bow our knee and why don't we all go around loving the God of creation, believing what the Bible says, and loving our neighbor? How would you ever collapse?
You wouldn't. It would be fantastic. But unfortunately, as you said, sin-cursed world is what it is. And I was just amazed. I mean, I expected something like this to happen at some point because of what happened this summer. You just knew, you could see it heading this direction,
Yep.
where it's going to be one side versus the other, and then you repeat the same thing. That's why, but I will tell you one difference. I watched the coverage last night, mostly on Fox, but I did flip around to watch all of it. And it was interesting because almost every person, whether they're representative or whatever, was Republican or right-winger, they called it out for what it was. This is not right. We shouldn't be doing that. I'm ashamed. This is one of the worst days I've ever seen. Whereas the other way didn't happen that way. You had people just saying, "Oh, they're not really. It's mostly peaceful."
Yeah, well, to me, there's no
peaceful.
defense.
At least they called
Yeah.
it for what it is. That's the biggest difference. Is we recognize it, and I mean, I was embarrassed.
Well, to me, the hypocrisy of it all is if you have the electoral college system, which has benefited the Republicans in the past. I mean, they didn't even win Trump didn't even win the popular vote.
Well, that's right. And the founders set it up that way.
Well, right.
To make everybody important. Hang on, Jason. Take a break.
So what does that mean? That means it's state by state. If you want to if you say, okay, well, there was all this fraud or You're going to have to fix that individually. You're not going to do anything by storming the Capitol. This is going to have to be each individual state.
That's right.
And that's how we do it in America.
And
you never say, guess what? Blunt force and trauma, here it is. We're charging. That's how all these great nations in the past, they all rose and fall based on this physical altercation of this is not going to happen.
We've all seen them collapse.
Yeah.
We saw it when the wall fell, and the communism just collapsed. We saw the whole thing right before our eyes, and it looks like what we're doing now.
Yeah. Well, that's me. I say character matters. It's no difference to me. You see the same thing at a lesser level in, Little League Baseball or whatever. Some guy's in his mind defending the kids, and he feels like there's something wrong, and all of a sudden, he's gone haywire at an umpire who's making $25. And look, he's ready to beat this guy. It happens every year. Look, they call the law. He's out here. He's gone to violence. 4-letter words, just goes off the rail, and then you're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm defending these kids. I'm like, you're an idiot.
All you're doing is showing them how you should never act.
Things happen. People get it wrong.
There was a guy that
Someone
was
says
banned
what you're
from our ballpark
saying won't work.
Yeah.
The biblical account won't work. Don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful.
Where's that at? Because I was looking for that
in Romans
earlier.
12, verse 17.
Yeah, that's a very good verse.
Be careful, listen, to do what is right. Check this out. In the eyes of everybody. That's Democrat, Republican, Independent. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Don't take revenge. I could smell a twinge of revenge from watching the news media yesterday.
Yep.
Do not take revenge, my friends. Leave room for God's wrath. See, I believe if everyone put their faith in God and repented of their wicked ways, and they bowed down to him and loved him and his son Jesus by the power of the Spirit, you would see from them the fruit of loving God. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Someone says, you're an idiot for thinking like that. I'm like, are you telling me this won't work?
Well,
and it will work.
But the world...
But they think we're a bunch of rednecks down there, Bible thumpers.
Well, who knows what they
dismiss
think.
us out of hand.
Yeah. I think they think those things, if you do those things, they think those are weaknesses. If you... They take that as a weakness. If you're gentle, they're like, oh, weak. If you're exercise self-control, because they're saying, oh, this is... now's the time to fight.
We need to riot.
Yeah.
We need to shoot, loot, burn.
No, this is the time we're going to have to be people of character.
And the empires keep rising and they keep falling. And I'm looking at it now, Al. We're no different. It's happening to us now.
Well, Jace was right. It's not a...
There's a day of reckoning coming.
The attempt to fix it the way, I guess they were trying to fix this injustice, was not the way to do it.
Well, what are you accomplishing?
Nothing, because who would want a precedent where an election didn't matter, then it just whoever was in charge said, here's the winner. I mean, that's what you would. That's why the founders.
That's even all the details of this wasn't making sense when they said, well, Pence needs to just say, no, the election does not, the results do not stand. I'm like, well, if that was possible, why wouldn't every vice president do that every 4 years?
Well, it would be the end of be the end of elections.
And look, some of these guys or gals, I don't know who was it. I hadn't watched the media. My wife was telling me about it. They just said, this is how we take back America. Well, that was the dumbest, most anti-ungodly thing that you could do. And I think it was an embarrassment. It was one of the worst days in American history.
I've often said that it will not be, and it never has been, no matter what empire you're discussing, it never has been a government fix. Right. It's a spiritual fix, and America has missed it. And we've dumbed it down and ran God out of the news media, out of the school system, out of government. We've gotten rid of God, and now we're all going to do, make America great
general,
again.
I do think there's some that are out there fighting for the cause the right way. And
Well, I think a lot of people probably got swept up in that.
We should
Now,
have paid careful attention to the second president of the United States when he said, I've read what James Madison now has put before it, the Constitution of the United States. It was written for a religious and moral people. It is wholly inadequate for any other. Well, now, Al, we have the any other has stepped in,
Yep.
and they're like, we don't need that. So they pretty well have chunked the Constitution, and it was never meant to be for the ungodly, Al.
Yeah,
It was written for the godly.
I agree, and you're right, Jace. The solution needs to be now is we need to fix the election issue in the state houses going for these
But
next
that's
4 years.
fixable.
It's fixable, absolutely.
you can't throw away character and morality and use violence
Can't do it.
and just evil. It's evil behavior, and it's the very thing
It's evil for evil. That's
that
what
you
happened.
were attacking the other side for about the riots
Yeah.
over. Can't even remember what over social injustice.
right.
And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is social injustice.
Yeah, here's a
you're-
little
But
mind.
now we're doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
here's a little
doesn't
mind
work.
twister. This is how 1 John chapter 2, verse 10. This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not a child of God, neither is anyone who does not love his brother. Well, that's profound. Just do what's right and love your brother. You'll be okay. Whether you're a nation or whether you're a community or a small town or a big city, you just do what's right and you love your brother. Al, it's hiding in plain sight, right before their very eyes.
And I think it's important.
I'm ashamed of America, the way they operate.
I was
now.
embarrassed last night too. Let's take another break.
Well, it reminds me, I'm a simplistic person. I play a lot of cards. We talk about that. And y'all know I'm pretty good at it. Well, I've caught people cheating before in the game. I had two choices. In the Wild West, you got killed for that.
Yep.
I mean, this is real money. I see somebody cheat. Because if something doesn't make sense, there's usually a reason. And so I start watching this film.
Now, Jace, by the way, it's not just with the card playing. It's with elections or anything else.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You're
My
surrounded,
point is,
Jace, by a mighty horde of cheaters.
Now, my point is how do I respond to that? Well, I'm using an illustration to something that's happened. Now, I'm mad because I'm like, I'm outplaying you, and so you're going to cheat and try to win. I mean, that's, to me, in my world, about as sorry as it comes. We're at a, buddy game, and you're dealing from under the deck. Now, I could do a couple things. I could catch him, grab his hand, and cut off, 2 fingers. Well, everybody, well, you can't do that. Well, that's my point. How you respond, even when you're wrong, matters. So guess what I try to do? I just know he's cheating, and I try to win anyway.
Beat him even when he cheats.
I beat him. Look, there's nothing like taking a cheater's money.
I will finish my proposal up with this. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11. He just talked about the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything in it to be laid bare. He's fixed to clean sweep the whole doggone bunch. All the empires are going to leave here. And it's not going to be man-made constructs that keeps you alive. Nope. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? So God's looking down, and Peter is telling you what's fixing to happen. You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. It'll bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, the elements will melt in the heat, but in keeping with his promise, here's where I'm camping out, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth, the home of righteousness. All I want is to live and be at home in a world of righteousness. Everything reworked, a redo. The cosmos will be recreated, the earth with it, and you'll live there forever and ever and ever and ever. Man-made governments, they cannot give us that, Al.
That's right.
They just can't do it.
Well, but here we are.
I feel
Phil.
sorry about it, but I'm not surprised that it happened because it's happened to everybody else who ever had a great nation.
But here we are.
They all thought we'll be here forever. Well,
but I've noticed. I mean, look, the older we get, we tend to separate ourselves from our role as an American citizen because we're Jesus followers first.
Right.
But look, here's Peter written a couple thousand years ago, and he addresses this. He says in chapter 2 and 13 of 1 Peter 1, he said, "Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every authority instituted among men, whether to the king or the supreme authority or to governors who are sent
that's correct.
by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right." But here's the two verses I want to zero in on. "For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish men."
That's right.
We've got a responsibility, no matter what happens,
That's right.
to do the right thing.
That is correct.
Then he says this is to me the key. "Live as free men," which is what I love about America. They're one of the few countries that you can be free.
Yep.
Live as free men, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil.
That's correct.
And I think you got a lot of that going on in this situation.
You can't charge against the largest standing structure, the epitome, the Capitol, and with all that goes
that's
on
right.
there,
'Cause
where
we
all the
need
laws are made and passed, and the
You know why you need
Supreme
that?
Court.
Because he said you have to distinguish between what is good and evil. And so, and then to your point, it says, live as servants of God. Even that's our
correct.
bigger motivation inside being an American citizen. And then it says this, show proper respect to those on your side. It doesn't say that. Look, it says show proper respect to everyone.
That's why when I had 3 conversations with Donald J. Trump, I pointed him to Jesus, Al, all 3 times. I said, this is the way. This is the way right here.
But
This
by
is-
doing
he,
that,
he is the way.
But by doing that, you're giving him a compass, which we had a viewer's question I think we were going to get to at some point. And, you know, the subject, you sent it to me, it just said compass. And it was the same point you're saying. You're like, well, why would you share Jesus to a guy who's leading a free nation? Because of the text that I just read means more.
That's right.
When you understand the creator of the universe when we say character matters, well, look at what happened to Jesus. You couldn't be done any more wrong than he was done. He was the only true innocent adult.
And his final words were, forgive them.
Yeah.
Forgive
but think
them.
about this, Phil. He was the only innocent adult that's ever been capital executed. And you say, well, wait a minute, there's some people they might have got wrong. Yeah, but he was innocent of anything.
That's correct.
So that shouldn't have happened. And how did he respond? He responded in character and in love.
Yep.
And you say, well, it just ain't right. That's why you have paragraph after paragraph that says leave room for God's wrath. You read that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to get done
You
wrong.
You can't stop violence with violence.
No.
It just will not
won't
work. It never has.
I get mad.
It winds
and-
up leaving a lot
We're
of